Buenos dias, los chads. Welcome back to Chad Jitsu, where we go balls deep into the latest, greatest grappling content in the world right now. Okay, we got a hot golden topic coming at you this week, hot off the press, all right. And we find ourselves having Brendan Schaub the center of discussion once again. And he's not alone this time. He's not the lone subject of a laughing matter, okay? He's in a little bit of a quarrel with Mr. Nate Diaz, okay? So let's rewind it a bit and go back to the beginning, and let's see how this quarrel played out for these chads, okay? We'll go back. Brendan got fired by Showtime and now runs his own little show on YouTube through Thick Boy Studios. And he does a show once a week, like an hour-long talk show. And recently he did a show about CTE and its effects on fighters. And he got a little emotional, chads. He got a little freaking emotional. He's talking about his buddy Shane Carwin, who had to step away from his engineering job because he was having trouble focusing, trouble concentrating, and these are effects from CTE and his fighting career. And he had to step away from what he does to make a living for his family. And our boy Brendan got a little emotional. Apparently, according to Brendan, him and Shane are boys. I don't know how true that is. I don't know the relationship between Shane Carwin and Brendan Schaub. We'll just go ahead and say, take his word for it. You know what I'm saying? And, he empathized with them. It is a sad situation, but he shed some tears, and, that would be sad, man. I mean, can't blame the guy, that's not, I don't know, it's not super, I can't blame the guy, okay? Like, I'm not going to make fun of a guy who's feeling bad for his friend, okay? That's just a guy being a good dude for his buddy. But, Mr. Nate Diaz had a little something to say on the X, or formerly known as Twitter. Gets on there, throws out a little tweet, or what would you call it on X sphere nowadays? Throws out an X, I don't know. But he says, he calls Brendan Schaub a pussy. And so, yeah, I mean, this is not the first time Nate has taken jabs at Brendan. He does not like Brendan. He, backstage at a UFC event, called out Brendan, called him a bitch, I believe. But yeah, I mean, Nate is in a long line of people that do not like Brendan Schaub. He's basically made everybody in the comedy world hate him. He's called his fans, or lack thereof, homeless cats. And believe you me, I love visiting the Fighter and the Kid subreddit. It is fantastic. It is hilarious. But I'm not here to put a man down, not put a man like Bappa, not talk ill of him. He already gets talked ill of enough. I actually think he responded quite well to this situation, okay? And this might be a little bit of a boost of what he needs to get back into the win column in the public eye, or at least help himself out a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Because the guy's been in a rough road. His comedy's not been doing great. He got drug under the rug with Joe Rogan. I feel like Joe Rogan throws a side comment every other podcast at Brendan. He just can't catch a break. Tiger Thick whiskey just seems kind of weird. All of his endeavors just don't seem to be quite paying off quite well for him. But, oh well. But this is great for Brendan, okay? The next show, Brendan addresses the Nate Diaz comment quite well, actually. And he makes some solid freaking points, guys. He makes some solid freaking points. He says, I'm 240, and what are you, 200 pounds, Nate? And you got to keep in mind, Nate Diaz fought at 155 and 170, and Brendan fought at heavyweight. And you would... That's a big weight difference, guys. That is a huge weight difference. And it's not like Brendan doesn't know anything about MMA or grappling. It's not like he's like Bradley Martin saying this stuff. He was a professional friggin' fighter in the marquee organization for professional fighting, the UFC. And so I don't think Nate would beat him in a UFC fight. He's just too big, And it's not like Nate was some explosive power puncher that, he catches you with one punch, he puts your lights out. He's more of a cardio guy that's just always in your face, taking the pace to you. He's just a volume puncher. And Brendan brings this up. He said, what are you going to do? Volume punch me?
What are you going to do, Nate? What are you going to do? Volume punch me, motherfucker?
That was a good one. That was a good comeback by Bappa. But he also says, you know what? He's doubling down on the CTE, and that's why he got out of fighting, because, he was like, I don't want that CTE. There's other ways I can make a living. And so he says, I'll challenge you to a grappling match, Nate. And you know where to find me. And we could set this up anytime you would like. And all right, I feel like that's fair. I mean, as the bigger guy, you can't be like, well, let's fight, because then people would be like, dude, you're just being a size bully then. I think a grappling match is a fair call out by Brendan, because you could say, in grappling, a small man has a chance to win. It's not all about horsecock, size, and strength. If a guy has good technique like Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson and is able to execute that technique, then he has a chance of beating the bigger man. And we've seen the bigger man lose in grappling, not once, not twice, but several times. And, it does happen. There's absolute divisions where the small guy wins. And so this is actually a fair call out by Brendan. He could have been like, well, let's fight, and just used his size to beat Nate. But honestly, he wouldn't have been in the wrong if he did that. And so he opens the challenge to Nate and says, we could do a grappling match, but if you want to do the fisticuffs, I think he literally says, if you fancy yourself a fisticuffs, you know where to find me.
Now, if you're doing this because you fancy yourself a fisticuffs, if you fancy yourself, you want to actually grapple me, I'm not hard to get a hold of.
And then he says, I'll twist your neck off and drink a Diet Coke afterwards. And that's pretty funny. All right. I like myself a good diet soda as well. Just freaking awesome. Diet Coke after a Mog by Brendan would be hilarious. Just see him sipping on a DC after winning via rear naked choke against Nate Diaz would be hilarious. Nate doesn't really say a whole lot to this, but just goes online and says, I think you'd be surprised. And, classic comeback. I think no matter what Brendan would have said, that comeback would have been tweeted out, because, that's just a classic. Joe Rogan sitting Brendan down, asking how he think he would do against Cain Velasquez in a wrestling match, and Brendan being like, I think you'd be surprised, and Joe would be like, no, I think you'd be surprised. Classic comeback. That interview will forever haunt Brendan for the rest of his career in the public eye. And but yeah, he's taken it like a champ. He's run with it, tried to make some money off of it, which you can't blame the guy, because that was quite humiliating to do that to Brendan on a public podcast, listened to by many viewers. And that was 10 years ago, and that it's still relevant. Let's let it die, guys. Come on, let's let it die. But anywho, this match might happen, guys. Craig Jones says he's interested to have it for CJI 2. That would be freaking sweet. We see these boys tussle it out in the pit. I think if it goes down in the pit, Brendan has the advantage. He can back Nate up against the wall and freaking just put the big man pressure on him, pressure pass him, and put him down and submit him pretty easily. But Nate Diaz, no joke, off his back. He's long-limbed, he's got a sick triangle armbar, classic close guard game off his back that's dangerous, so you got to respect that. Also, this won't be the first time Bappa has entered the no-gi grappling sphere, which is, I'm assuming this match would be in a no-gi grappling match, not gi. So we've seen Bappa take on Cyborg at, I think it was Metamoris. And that match was a bit of a meme, not going to lie. He proceeded to run away from Cyborg and not engage with Cyborg for 15 minutes. However, despite maybe stalling calls being implemented, Cyborg couldn't do anything to Brendan. And, even though he did stall and made it quite boring and did not really do any jiu-jitsu, that is semi-impressive. Cyborg is one of the top BJJ competitors at Brendan's weight, and Brendan was able to kind of defend and stay away from him the whole time, which is pretty good. And also, I think we would see a friggin' motivated Schwab, a training Schwab, a non-alcoholic Schwab, Schwab putting down the Tiger Thick whiskey and picking up the green juices, really trying to dial in his training, trying to freaking get after it, Lives in LA, I believe. He could go train with Master Eddie Bravo, sharpen his 10th planet skills. But, yeah, I'm not super interested in this match. I just think it should happen just for the heck of it, Nate Diaz has been going on these weird side quests, boxing Jorge Masvidal, boxing, I think, Jake Paul. He's just been doing these weird side quests, but I'm here for it. He's funny. Maybe he's just bored, and he's like, hey, this would be an easy way to make a lot of money. And, good for him. Good for him cashing in. The people love him. I love watching his interviews. I love watching him fight, whether it be boxing, grappling, MMA, what have you. Entertaining guy. The 209. It would be funny if we saw him hit a standing guillotine on Brendan like he did on that guy in Louisville in the streets. That would be freaking hilarious. But, yeah. I don't know. Will this ever happen? Probably not, but it's a little fun in the grappling community. And I thought I'd share my 2 cents with you, Chads. Let me know what you guys think would happen in a square down, a showdown between these two. Who's coming out on top? Is there going to be a leg lock submission? Probably not. But let me know what you guys think down below. I'll see you.